army trumps its Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Developed and published by Ubisoft and released in October 2013 for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Wii U, and later released in mid-November 2013 on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. What you're seeing right now is the PlayStation 4 version of the game. Personally, I've been playing this franchise since the release of the first game back in 2007, and I've enjoyed them all throughout up until the third game and its Vita counterpart anyways, which left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And when Black Flag was released, I decided to take a bit of a break from the series. So I waited a while before getting to this, and hoped with the release of Watch Dogs and Far Cry becoming relevant again, that Ubisoft would possibly drop the yearly release schedule for Assassin's Creed, and perhaps give each of these IPs their own year to shine. Instead, now this year, we're seeing the release of 2 more games in the franchise. Wonderful. Story-wise, Assassin's Creed 4 is a prequel to the events of Assassin's Creed 3, and you now play as Edward Kenway during the golden age of piracy, who happens to be the father of Haytham Kenway and grandfather of Connor, the previous protagonist from Assassin's Creed 3. But all at the same time, Assassin's Creed 4 keeps itself fairly distant from its predecessor. Edward himself has no ties to the Assassins or Templars originally, and ends up washed up on shore with his unusually white teeth, alongside an assassin turned Templar, after some pirating went wrong, who you then kill, take the letter and outfit, and make your way to Havana to meet with his Templar friends disguised as the guy, hoping to make some easy money. Sure enough, things go wrong, and they discover you aren't who you say you are, and on top of that, the assassins know as well, and shenanigans ensue.
Let's collect your reward.
Assassins, Templars, crazy talk.
As for the present-day timeline story, gone are the days of Nolan North, I mean Desmond, and now you play as yourself in the first person as a new employee at Abstergo Entertainment, who made virtual entertainment by mucking around with history and DNA memories to fund their more sinister plans. Without giving away anything, things get pretty interesting by the end of it all, and it had me actually interested in where things were going now in the new chapter of the present-day story. But does Assassin's Creed 4 continue with a downward spiral of the franchise, or bring it to new heights? Let's find out first, with the good.
Well, your numbers look good. Now let's make sure we can break your brain, all right?
One of the most noticeable improvements I found personally was the approach to the story in Assassin's Creed 4. If you're new to the franchise, this is a great jumping on point for anyone interested. The modern day setting starts off fresh with a new chapter in its own unique way, letting you be a new employee at the company. And as for the main story, the new setting in the age of piracy is much more interesting than the colonial revolution in my opinion. Edward also has no real insight or knowledge of the assassins or Templars, and for the most part of the game remains that way, allowing new players to soak in the information and be just as confused as he is.
You're churlish and arrogant, prancing around in a uniform that you have not earned.
Everything is permitted. Isn't that your motto?
I absolve you of your errors in Havana and elsewhere, but you are not welcome here.
Sorry, mate. Wish it were otherwise.
One other aspect I think Black Flag has over its predecessors is its more relative focus on stealth. Black Flag notably puts more effort into a focus on stealth for its mission design than previous games lately in the franchise. But once you do eventually begin to clash swords, the combat overall hasn't changed much since 3, and is still your standard counter to win affair, but still remarkably fun to do and watch. But easily the best thing about Black Flag is the open world itself. It's massive and filled with things to do, see, and stab. Ubisoft really went all out with the world and themes of Black Flag, and it clearly shows. You've got everything from your typical assassination missions, collectibles around the world to find, including treasure maps and treasure, whale and shark hunting, and loads of other stuff to do that would take simply too long to list. and you've got the freedom to explore almost every nook and cranny of this beautiful world they've crafted very early on in the game. As for the cities you can explore, you've got 3 major locations to visit: Nassau, Havana, and Kingston. Each has their own unique aspects to them, and they're fun to explore for the most part, but nothing truly memorable to be fully honest. But what is memorable is the naval gameplay. If there's one standout shining aspect to Assassin's Creed 3, it was the amazing naval gameplay missions and combat. And so now with Assassin's Creed 4, we got more of it. You have the freedom to sail around the Caribbean and explore this open world from your ship and leave it at any time to explore nearby islands, or to board other ships that you may plunder. The naval combat has also been streamlined and improved upon, making it some of the most fun you'll have in this game. I personally spent hours just sailing around, exploring, plundering, and looking for ships for my fleet. The naval gameplay in Assassin's Creed 4 is quite literally the most fun I've had in any Assassin's Creed game to date, and to me personally makes Assassin's Creed 4 stand up as its own unique gem of a game that non-Assassin's Creed fans should give a try just simply for it alone. But once again, multiplayer also makes a return, although personally I didn't spend a whole lot of time playing it since it's been over a year now and the servers are kind of dead. And personally, I was never much of a fan of the mouse and cat style of gameplay to begin with. But nonetheless, I still had my share of fun with it. For the most part, it hasn't changed a whole lot since its first introduction in Brotherhood, but the cooperative Wolfpack mode makes a return from Assassin's Creed 3, and I still had plenty of fun running around with random people stabbing AI enemies together. So next up, let's discuss the bad.
Yeah. 6 days of pure fucking silence. So I must conclude that you men are the pariahs of Charlestown, and I would profit better by using your organs for chum and your bones for char.
One thing that has always plagued the Assassin's Creed franchise is simply the controls. Honestly, I thought Assassin's Creed 3 made matters worse when they made it so that climbing and running were all managed by a single button, or trigger I should say, and nothing much has changed in Assassin's Creed 4. I had plenty of times just simply trying to do one thing, and the controls do something else entirely. As for combat, the controls haven't changed at all from Assassin's Creed 3 primarily, and the combat itself remains as easy as ever. So for a challenge, I prefer to try and avoid combat at all costs, otherwise the game turns into a cakewalk, which you think would be the opposite goal. But next up, something that has annoyed me personally since Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is the 100% sync crap. I fully understand adding extra challenges to make your game more difficult, but most of these completely kill any concept of approaching missions your own way unless you want 100% completion, and has led me to a ton of frustration. But easily my biggest issue with Black Flag are the tailing missions. It almost seems like half the damn missions in this game are tailing missions. I lost track of how many I did, but every single one of them were terrible, and considering that these are most of the missions of the game, that's not a good sign. On top of having to do the 100% sync stuff, you've then got to follow people on land and listen to exciting conversations and schemes, now even on the sea. Seriously, I appreciate the focus on stealth and all, but these are just awful, and no way close to being fun, and yet extremely frustrating and tedious. And lastly, just one minor complaint: no online ship battles. Like seriously, this is such awesome wasted potential to make your multiplayer amazing, perhaps in a future game someday. But now it's time for the ugly. Overall, Assassin's Creed 4 is a gorgeous game. The setting is perfectly executed and the open world looks fantastic. The game for the most part runs fine on next-gen consoles with a stable frame rate and 1080p resolution on the PlayStation 4 version of the game, and I had no freezing or crashes during my 40 to 50 or so hours with the game. The animations as well have been a standout thing for the Assassin's Creed franchise, and they don't disappoint here as well. A lot of the combat animations look brutal and fantastic and never get old, when they work. One other notably great thing about Black Flag is the soundtrack. Everything from the ambient music that plays to my personal favorite, and easily another reason why you should pick up Black Flag, the sea shanties. They're amazing. But this is the ugly, so let's discuss what makes this game ugly. Buds. Lately you can't have a Ubisoft game without bugs. The result of a rushed game from a yearly release schedule, Assassin's Creed 4 has a few technical issues. Everything from some harmless yet funny bugs to some more serious bugs like getting stuck inside objects within the environment, forcing you to reload a checkpoint or save file, to even loads of animation problems, clipping issues, and even some minor audio issues with certain sound effects cutting out entirely. Ever have a silent ship battle with no cannon sound effects? Let's just say it's not very thrilling. Assassin's Creed 4 is a fairly buggy game, and what's troubling is that it's been over a year since the game's release, and even on the latest patch, all of these bugs and issues still remain. But that's just me being picky. At the end of the day, Assassin's Creed 4, aside from some common bugs and dull tailing missions, is a great game. Hell, I'd argue Assassin's Creed 4 is easily the best Assassin's Creed game to date, and probably won't be knocked down from the top spot for a long while. In my opinion, the good of this game heavily outweighs the bad and ugly of it. Just simply the massive open world to explore, the naval combat, all while keeping up the Assassin's Creed theme of climbing and stabbing, and of course the shanties is more than enough reason for anyone in my opinion to give this game a try. But now, it's time for my rating.
Hey, bully in the alley, have 6 kids and live in Shinbone Alley, bully down in Shinbone Alley. Hey, they're just like them pretty girls when they get the notion.
The larboard, sir! Some sort of cargo there, sir! Give voice, you tars!
Come all you young sailor and listen to me. I'll sing you a song of the fish in the sea, and it's windy weather, boys, stormy weather, boys, friendly foes. We're all together, boys, blow even west, blow even oh, jolly sou'wester, boys, steady she goes. Way hey, up she rises, way hey, up she rises, way hey, up she rises, early in the morning. What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor?